Today's video, I'm going to go over 5 makeup mistakes that can age you. Hey everyone, this is Lisa. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Lisa Monique Beauty, where we cover all things beauty and lifestyle for the over 50 woman. So today's video is kind of a follow-up to what I did last October that was really popular on makeup mistakes that women over 50 make. And my premise was that they weren't wearing enough makeup, or a lot of women weren't wearing enough, versus wearing too much makeup, which a lot of makeup mistake videos showed women that were putting on too much. And so I did want to follow up with a couple of other hints. I call them mistakes to title the video, but really they are just hints on how you can make your makeup look better. This is just an opinion video, and it is geared towards women who are not familiar with how to wear makeup. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to mention about sunscreen. I don't have that as a makeup mistake. I don't put sunscreen on right before I put my makeup on. I do have a sunscreen video for the face, and I make some recommendations, so I'll put that up here too. Now let's get into the mistakes. Mistake number 1 is not whitening or brightening your eyes if you have a lot of redness in your eyes or red rims. Now I use the Bausch & Lomb Lumify. I did clear it with my optometrist. She was in my wedding, very good friend. And she said, yes, this is a product that she recommends to help whiten eyes when people are complaining about it. It is not like the Visine. It is a different product for whitening and brightening. It is ophthalmologist approved. It is a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $14, $15 for this little bottle versus something like the Visine, which might be cheaper, but that is a less recommended product for whitening your eyes. So I like to use this because it whitens all the way, into the rims. If you can't use the drops because you're using other eye drops, you can also use something like this, which is the Charlotte Tilbury Rock and Coal eye pencil that is flesh tone. And I like the flesh tone, see I put it right here, because it is not bright white. My eyes aren't bright white anymore, so even with the drops, they're not bright white anymore. So I don't want my rims to be a lot whiter than my eyes. So I do like to use the flesh tone. Unfortunately, if you have really sensitive eyes, I do not have sensitive eyes, so I can't test out products to tell you this will work. So I rely on my viewers who have sensitive eyes to put helpful hints or products that they use in the comments below. So if you're looking for something that you might find it down in the comments. Okay, the second makeup mistake is not using concealer to spot, conceal discoloration, hyperpigmentation, and instead depending on a full coverage foundation. So I have the IT Cosmetics CC cream. I like the IT Cosmetics CC cream, the color correcting full coverage cream. But I do not know why when you go into Sephora and you ask the salesperson on a good foundation and you tell them a little bit about, you're trying to cover the dark circles under your eyes, maybe some sunspots, they always send them to the IT Cosmetics CC cream. This is not the foundation I would recommend to someone who's not used to wearing foundation or their first foundation. It is a heavy foundation. It looks like foundation on your skin if you don't apply it very carefully. Now, how can you apply it to make it work? In general, you definitely want to have it on freshly moisturized skin. You want to maybe put a drop of serum or even mix it in with a little bit of moisturizer on the back of your hand before you apply it. You want to shear it out, apply it with a damp beauty blender, apply it with your fingers, and then go over it with a sponge to take off the excess product. And then just maybe spot conceal or go over the areas of concern with a little bit more. But you have to be careful because this one tends to look cakey and it can settle if you apply it too heavy. So most women do not need full coverage foundation. Your goal for foundation shouldn't be to completely give you a flat face. I feel like the goal should be to just soften the discoloration to make your skin look more even. So you're just trying to even out your face the best you can. But I feel that instead of using a full coverage foundation, you should be using a full coverage concealer instead, and then you can use a lighter or more medium coverage foundation. Now I will say, because I have been getting some sun on my face is actually more even than it was in the winter when my melasma really stood out against a pale face. So now it's going to be harder for me to demonstrate this technique because my skin is a little more even than it was a few months ago. But the key is to let your concealer do the work. And what I mean by that is using a full coverage concealer that has a lot of pigment. You don't have to apply a ton of product. Your concealer, the pigment in your concealer is actually doing the coverage, not the amount of the product that you're piling on. Depending on your under eye area, you can use a color corrector if you have a lot of purple discoloration, a color corrector, a peachy one to kind of counteract that purple, and then go over it with your concealer. You can, again, use the full coverage concealer if you need that much coverage, or sometimes a color corrector and a lighter weight concealer, like my favorite that I talk about a lot, like the Kosas concealer. This is really lightweight, it's very brightening, but it can be worn over a color corrector and you still can have a nice comfortable look underneath your eyes with the concealer. But today I am going to use a L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear Concealer to try and cover up the discoloration spots that you still can see. I have a couple of them. The other thing about this concealer is shade is too light. So one of the things I'm going to tell you is to use a shade that matches your skin tone as close as you can, or even if it's a skosh darker when you're covering up spots, and then when you put on the rest of your foundation, you've blended out those edges and it cover everything and even out everything better. If you use it too light, sometimes it kind of highlights that area, and then if the darkness starts poking through, it looks gray and ashy. So I definitely try to match my skin tone. This is the right undertone. This one is a little bit light for me because my skin has gotten just a little bit darker, but it's what I have. Okay, so that's too much. You just want the tiniest spot. That's way too much. I can use that little bit on all of my spots. And you can brush it out with a concealer brush. So then you can just tap it in with your finger or a brush. This is the Refer number 32. I do know it's sold out right now, but I think you can get on an email list and they'll notify you when it comes back in stock. A little high. So this is my darker spot, and this is where I can notice that this is a little bit light for covering this spot. And now I have a more even base complexion to start. Now I also am going to set this concealer, and I'm going to do it, yes, before I put my foundation over it. And I am going to use, I have a clean brush. I am just going to take the littlest dab on my brush, and I'm going to tap it here, tap it on the back of my hand. But I do want to just set that concealer before I start. Now, something I've seen I don't normally do, but I did see this, so it does look kind of fun. You can put a little bit of setting spray on your sponge and pat that on top too, and then let that kind of dry down. And then my skin is a little bit more even. Can't really see those spots. And now I'm ready to do my foundation, and I'm going to use a medium coverage foundation. I'm going to use the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation today because it's the best color match of the foundations that I have. Some other good ones, the Laura Mercier. Of course, I really like the Flawless Lumiere and the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundations. And then, of course, the Lancome Tint Idol Foundation Stick. These are the foundations that I recommend depending on whether or not somebody's in a drugstore. If they're in Walmart, I'm going to recommend the Healthy Foundation. If they're in another, and they can also do Wet n Wild at Walmart. If they're in another drugstore, I will recommend the Wet n Wild. If they're in Sephora, I recommend the Lancome Foundation Stick or the Laura Mercier or the LYS Serum Foundation. These are all medium coverage foundations. If they really don't need a lot of coverage at all, then, there are all kinds of tinted serum foundations and things like that. But I am going to show you using the Wet n Wild. At this point, the way my face looks right now, I could get away with a tinted serum. I don't think I need a whole lot of additional coverage on top of the way my skin looks right now. But I am going to just show you using a medium coverage foundation. Then you can tap that on. Use my foundation brush. My first inclination when I'm putting on the foundation is I am spreading the product. So I'm just kind of tapping it and moving it. And then I go back and it's more of a buffing to make sure, then I'm doing little strokes to make sure it's well blended. And I tend to just put my foundation under my eyes because I don't need a whole lot of coverage. But if you do need more coverage, then you avoid the eye area with your foundation and then just use your concealer there. You don't necessarily want a whole lot of heavy product. Then I use my Stands Out sponge to just push product into my face and lift up the excess product. I'm just pushing, I'm not dragging. If I was trying to remove something, I would drag it. But since I'm just pushing it into my skin, and that's how I do my foundation. It's not a flat, complete, full coverage. You still can see a little bit of the discoloration, but when I have the rest of my makeup on, you're not really going to notice anything. When you use a full coverage concealer underneath your eye, you do need to set it usually. So you definitely want to use the technique, like I said, like I did really on my face, under your eyes. If you put too much powder under your eye, if you just dip your brush in and then do this, and then start taking it on your eyes, chances are that is too much powder and it can suck the moisture out from underneath your eyes. And even though you're not baking, it really can dry out that under eye area. So that is another thing that can really aid you. I mean, I tapped it off, right? I mean, ooh, look, you can keep tapping. You definitely want to use just the lightest bit of powder that you can when you are powdering under your eyes. Okay, mistake number 4 really is for those who, like me, want to put eyeliner or put some sort of shadow or something under our bottom lashes to help define our eyes. Now, I know some people say don't do that, but don't let someone tell you what you can and can't do. So you do what you want, but to make it look better, you want the emphasis still to be on your upper eye. So if you are going to wear liner down below, it can't be heavier or thicker than what you're wearing up above because you want the eyes to draw upwards for that lip. Okay, so I'm going to use brown. I'm not even going to use my brown eyeliner because it is packed away. And so I am going to just use some shadow. I'm going to use the Scott Barnes because it does have some deep browns. I'm going to use a fine pencil tip to apply the liner, or the shadow as a liner. This is a Rephr 03. And I'm just going to start in my upper lashes, and I'm just tapping the color into my eyelashes on the top. Maybe I will use the black. You know what? I'm going to use the black. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to use a black on the upper and just try and fill in that base. There, so I'm just trying to get right into that lash line, between the lashes almost. And then if I wanted to go in underneath, I would use a lighter brown. I would even come up here and use this like woody or even lighter, but I'm going to use a bigger pencil brush because I want it to be a real soft line. So I want most of the pigment to be on the outside when I first touch it, and then I blend it in. And I'm going to go back into that dark brown and I'm going to wing it up a little bit. Go back in a little bit darker, just on the lash line. I put just a teeny bit of setting spray on my brush, dipping it into that black again because I think I actually want right at my lash line to be a black line. You just want your upper lashes to be darker than your lower. So you can use a lighter color, a lighter technique. You just don't want to do the heavy circle around the entire eye because you want your emphasis to be on those upper lashes. Okay, this could be my natural daytime look. Still have liner underneath my lashes, but I am bringing your attention up to the upper lashes. I'm going to go ahead and put on just a little bit more eyeshadow though. I think I'm just going to take a little bit of this Saucy and put it on my lid. For my one and done look. I love shimmers on my lid. You've heard me say that a million times if you watch my channel. When people don't like them, I love them. I love the way it draws somebody's eyes to my eyes. The fifth mistake is not lining your lips when you're wearing a dark lipstick or if you have deep lip lines, just to keep your lipstick from sinking into those lines. Now, if you don't like the look of lipstick, if you want to go very natural, you can take a pencil like this, or there are other lip priming pencils that are skin tone, and line your lips with these. This one's going to be a little bit too light for me. I do use it, but then I have to cover it up with foundation. What you're doing is you're just putting a little bit of that lip liner, the wax, in the crevices of your lip so that it stays full. So when you put your lipstick over it, it's not either sliding into those crevices and up, or it's just not skipping those crevices, and then you have that white gaps in between your lips. So this lip pencil is very similar to my natural color. This is in Daniel. It's a Makeup by Mario. And then he has a little brush on the other end. So you can make sure you're not skipping the edges. And you want to kind of make a little tight lip face and make sure that you have color all around your lips. And then for lipstick, I'm just going to use the Makeup by Mario. This is a matte lip, which I don't necessarily recommend for more mature lips. I love this color though. It's called Jessie. So I'm going to have to put a gloss on top of it. So if you like matte lipsticks, these are really pretty. They feel good, but I don't like matte lipstick on my lips anymore. I feel like it shows all my lip wrinkles. It's not the crevices, it's like the depuckered wrinkles. So I will always put a gloss on top. And this gloss is the Revlon Super Lustrous The Gloss, and it is in 260 Rosy Future. Looks like Rosy Future. Okay, so this is the final look with the lighter application, the one that is less likely to sink into your wrinkles and your lines, less likely to look heavy and mask-like, less likely to have those lines with your lipstick and your creases. It still draws your eyes up at the eyes, even though I'm still wearing liner down below. Once again, there is another makeup mistake video. I'll put the link down in the description box if you want to see some of the other common makeup mistakes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope